I've came across an app that is called Mapy.cz, which I would say can arguably be one of the best ones on the Google Play Store and the iOS Apple App Store. Now, I've used this app called Mapy.cz for the last few months. I will be comparing it to an app that I've used beforehand, which is called OSMand. I will also be slightly comparing it to maybe Google Maps as well, just for some context. But I think for the money, which there is no money involved, which is kind of amazing, this app is one of the best navigation apps that I've came across. And stay tuned for another video that might showcase another app, because this list is always changing and evolving over time, so definitely subscribe. One of the things I look for when I'm looking for a navigation app is I'm looking for a simple user interface. I find that there are a lot of other apps out there that are really feature-rich, but they can become very clunky and overbearing to work with. So I really like it when the UI is very simple, when it's easy to learn, and it's very clean in its design. I also like it, on a second point, I like it when it's a low cost or budget-friendly option. I don't mind paying a one-time fee, but I prefer to spend maybe £10 or €10 or so. I might spend the €20 on an app, but it kind of depends how good it is, really. And the best of all is when it's free to use and open source. So I'll get into, after I've gone through this quick list that I go through each time I look for an app, I will give you my overall thoughts and opinion on what I think about this app. And I'll also even give you a walkthrough and answer some of your questions from previous videos. On a third point, it can be useful when you don't have an internet connection and you want to use the app offline. This app allows you to do that. On a fourth point, I really like it when there's a large amount of information. So when you've got a really large database that you can access, and luckily with Mapy.cz, there is one, because they are using OpenStreetMaps, which is an open source project where lots of people contribute to a open source map, like mapping service. And what Mapy.cz, or Shazam, I believe the name is, I might be pronouncing that wrong, Czechia company. What they've done is they've put their own theme or style on top of it and made it more user-friendly, and they've just really given it a fantastic user interface that really feels professional and really simple to use. And the fifth thing, like I said before with low cost, is I really like it when an app can avoid monthly subscription fees, because in the end of the day, I as a customer prefer to pay a one-time fee, or I have it open source. I'm not so keen on spending the monthly fee unless the app is seriously good. For me, it's just not worth the money when there's lots of different other competitive apps out there, or navigation apps, should I say, that offer so many different variants and very low cost. So those are the things that I look for when I'm looking for a navigation app, or any app in general. Now, when it comes to the walkthrough that I mentioned, I want to give you a quick overview on how the app works and what are its plus sides and downsides to comparing it to another app or other navigation apps. So when we're opening up the app, we are presented with your location, and from there we can plan routes. So when we go down to the bottom left, there's a button, and we press that and we go into route planning. From here you can choose a point where you'd like to start and where you want to finish. So let's just make up a random route for just argument's sake so that we can give a test. I'm going to put one starting point and a finishing point. Now it'll give us the kilometers, it'll tell us the hours it'll take. At the top left you can choose between a tourist or route, like it basically takes the preferred routes that are with way markings, or you can go the shortest route to your destination. And then there's cycling, and then it can go for mountain biking and road biking, and it tries to use its own data from the open source mapping service, like I said, from OpenStreetMaps. It takes the data from that and then puts it into its algorithm for calculating the best route for you. Keep it in mind that this app was designed for Czechia. So when you zoom in on Czechia, it works really well. And when you zoom in around Europe, it's still pretty good, but like things like the traffic system don't work so well. And this is actually why they've made an international variant of this app that hasn't gained enough maturity, I would say, yet before I want to use it fully. And that one is actually called WindyMaps. And when you download WindyMaps and you use this one, the funny thing is that the user interface is almost identical. There's only like 2 or 3 little differences to the UI. And when you open up Mapy.cz, it's actually the original app, and it works a lot better than it does versus other navigation apps. So like I said, I primarily use this for hiking and biking, and just for finding off-road trails and routes and dirt roads and things like that. I also like how it highlights in different colors. You've got a blue line and a red line for hiking trails, and you've got a pink route for biking trails or dedicated bike paths, which is really good. I'm really happy with that. So it's very easy to get your information at a glance. So you have to keep it in mind that when you're using this app, everything is like information at a glance. And if you're wanting to use it for more heavy duty like research, then I would use something like Google Maps instead, or Google Earth even, because you can really dive into the map service. But if you want just quick glanceable information that's also important to you when you are going outdoors, then it's really good. So the route planning is simple enough when you click a point that you want to go to. Now you can add other points along the destination, which is very similar to the way that Google Maps does it. I don't really like this system. I wish that you could just like draw a route with your finger. I don't know when they'll ever change this in the future, but you know how you can click and drag with pretty much any software that you use on a computer. You can click and drag with a mouse and draw a line, for example. And you just can't do that yet on the smartphone. And I'd like to see that more implemented over time. And I've noticed some apps are doing it, but this one is not doing this. So it gives you a basic overrun of how fast your route will take, or how much time it will take. Because they've teamed up with this company Windy, they also have a really good weather tracking system, or weather prediction system. So when you've plugged in your route from start to finish, you can see what the weather will be like during as the time rolls on throughout the day, and then it tries to predict that, oh, you might get some rain halfway through your trip, which is pretty fantastic. I think that's a really useful feature. I'm not sure how it will progress in the future, but still, it's a useful thing to have. We've also got elevation profile. We cannot zoom in on this elevation profile for some reason, which is a bit weird. And in the bottom left, you can save your route, and you can also share it with other people, because this whole system, this whole application is also web-based. So if you go to like Mapy.cz, it'll literally load the website, and you can use it exactly the same way as you would on your phone, just with a bit more screen real estate. And that's how you can share it with other people. So it's simple enough to use. I like how when we save it to our own account, because if you make an account with them, you can store all of your rides and all of your routes and such in a folder. And once we load that up, we can bring it back into onto the map. So I've selected one which follows one of these GR Compostela trails nearby, and because I've been making a book recently about hiking in our area, and one of the trails we've done is along here, and this one is really fantastic because it follows the route, and I can then save that on my phone. So it's very simple to use, and I really love that about this. You can also have a tracker system, so you can record your rides, your hikes, your walks, your drives. There's all sorts of, you can basically track your route, which is really fantastic. And when we're out of the route planning, you can also make a trip nearby. So that is using a simple algorithm system that tries to make up a route that would be quite nice to either bike, mountain bike, or hike. And so far it's pretty cool. It's got a slider so you can adjust it and bring it up to like 100 kilometers, or you can bring it down to 20 kilometers. And then with the hiking one, it's kind of the same system. You can bring it up and down and change it to 12 kilometers, and that'll take 4 hours. And the skiing one's kind of bizarre because we can't actually do that right here where I'm based. We have to go into the mountains for that. A nice little feature when you're scrolling around on the map, which I really like, is that you can view the highest peaks in the area at a very easy glance. It's very quick and simple, and I love that. I really love knowing what the terrain's like and trying to assume where the highest peaks are so that I can plan a route or a nice hiking adventure around there. And then it brings up the hiking trails, like the national routes around that. And I think that's fantastic. So for Europe, this app is really, really good. I have heard that because OpenStreetMaps is, as I said, open source, it doesn't work so well in certain countries. I've heard that in India, Mapy.cz isn't so good. And I've also heard some other countries in Asia aren't the best for this app. Maybe over time, this navigation app or this mapping system app will get better over time. But so far, I think for Europe and America, I think also Australia and New Zealand is pretty decent from what I've seen so far. So we've talked about the UI. We've talked about a walk through the app. We also can change the maps layer. So we have an aerial view, which is satellite imagery. We have that outdoor one, which I mentioned before, which is their own stylized version of OpenStreetMaps. We have a winter map, a basic map, which is probably just like not even showing you hiking trails. Yeah, it's basically for cars if you're just driving. And then you have traffic information as well. Again, traffic information only works in Czechia for now. Just keep that in mind. But this will probably be updated over time. Now, what I said before, I want to be able to use this app offline. So you have a whole bunch of different countries, different maps to choose from like Latvia to Namibia to the United Kingdom, Vietnam, all sorts of different maps that you can download for free, no cost, no additional cost needed. For now. I hope they don't change that. And I think it's fantastic. It tells you how much space it'll take up on your phone. You download your region that you need, and there you go. Voila, you've got a free mapping system that is clean and simple to use. I mean, it's fantastic. I really think it's good. You can't use the satellite imagery yet offline, which I think would be a nice feature in the future to have. But for now, the standard outdoor layer, outdoor map that they offer, I think it looks great. You can search for different locations at the top, but I found that that's not so brilliant. It's just, there is nothing as good as Google Maps for searching for an address. I mean, it is one of the best when it comes to that. But it's not too bad on here from what I've seen. I normally don't plug in addresses, so I always just get a GPS coordinate rather. I find it's a bit more easier to do that way. So that's pretty much it. There's a few other buttons and settings which aren't really necessary, just to adjust the slope, incline, and to show the hillshade. And that's about it. Everything else is very self-explanatory when you load up the actual app and try it and download it yourself for free. I really hope it'll stay for free for a long time because I think this app is fantastic. So we've done a basic walkthrough. I feel like maybe I can list off just an overall conclusion to what I think and also answer some of your questions from before. So the question was, can you import GPX files directly into this app? No, you can't yet. I'm sure they're going to change this in the future, but the only way to import them is you go onto your computer and then you import them from there on the web-based version of Mapy.cz. That's how you can import them. To me, that is a downside because OSM and this other app, navigation GPS app, has that built in, and it's very feature rich, which I should probably do a review on. But lately I've been using this app because it's so simple and easy to use, and simple always wins out, I would say. Another question was to compare Mapy.cz to WindyMaps. Now, WindyMaps, like I said, is kind of the same, so I think in the future they'll start to really merge into one maybe, or they're either going to diverge into two different apps. I'm not sure how it will unfold, but I'm keeping a close eye on them because I think that they're, like I said, I love their UI, I love what they're doing. I think it's a really good, clean, simple GPS app. And that concludes, I think, the questions. Conclusion, I think it's fantastic for now. I hope that all of these features will continue. I hope that there won't be a monthly subscription. I would like to see in the future a bit more customizability so that you can accentuate certain trails and roads that you're looking for, and to decrease like the certain saturation and emphasis that you get on other roads. For example, you can see major highways, but if I'm going on off-road touring, I'd rather see all of the dirt roads that I can take. And on a certain zoom level, I can't see them. So I'd rather have some system that you can click and maybe check off the roads and trails that you're specifically looking for. I think that would be really useful to get a visual overview of where you want to go, rather than seeing giant major highways that most people will only be taking just to get to where they want to go, you know? And also the sliding zoom feature is good, but like I said, you can only see certain trails at a certain zoom level, which I think needs to be updated. There's not many complaints. Maybe I would like to see a ruler system where I can create a custom KML or GPX file where I can draw out pin by pin and use the system that tries to predict a route following the road that you're on. So you can do a pin by pin from like point to point and it follows the road, but then you can switch into doing a click and drag system if the road network doesn't connect to where you want to go. But you can see on satellite imagery that there's a road there, and things like that. It's kind of specific and kind of advanced for most people, but I really love planning and really getting into those KML and GPX files and planning the whole route myself. And you can't do that so well with this app. Anyway, that concludes my review. If you want me to compare it to any others, let me know. Subscribe for more future content. And that's it. I hope to see you in another video.